Well, hello, everyone. Happy New Year, I might say, everyone. Glad to see you back. My name is Dale Parrish. I'm the state director for Convention of States here in Indiana, and ready to and roaring to go here on a brand new year 2023. So glad to have you with us tonight. And we've got another special show lined up for you this evening. So got a lot to cover, and let me bring on my co-host, Ken Kashuba. Hello, Ken.
Hello, Dale. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, bud. So glad that you made it through the holidays safe and sound, right?
Made it through. Yeah, made it through. You know, taking each day one day at a time.
No wild parties or anything. You didn't.
Wild parties were out of my vernacular probably 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's farther back for me than 10 years. But anyway, that Ken, I know you sing in the your church choir. Did that performance go well over the holidays?
We had an excellent performance. Matter of fact, we did something very different this year. We usually have some kind of a cantata play, and this year we decided to go with a more of a narrated musical, which was choir renditions and a full orchestra. So we had a very, very musical evening with some narration, and it went very well. Thanks.
Wow. You know, I had the opportunity to go to a local presentation here in our area. Took my my 95-year-old mother-in-law with me. She enjoys these, and I tell you, I was blown away. Quite honestly, I mean, I think I probably told you about this, but this church had a full orchestra. You mentioned an orchestra. Yep. I mean, this church had a string section, of course, all the vocalists plural, and the other instruments involved. And believe me, if we go back to this presentation again next year, I will set a few more rows back from it. It was loud. It was loud. But
so you didn't have to turn down the hearing aid. You had to.
No. Quite a performance. Yeah. So
we're quite blessed in our church to have a lot of talented people, and we had, as I think as we talked about it, we had everything too: strings, clarinet, cello, violins, trumpet.
Do you have a big enough facility to accommodate all that? And obviously you do, huh?
Yeah, it's a good size church with a big platform, and matter of fact, it was all last 2 or 3 years it was totally remodeled. We put in all new seating, all new flooring. It's really quite beautiful.
Because I would think you would need room to do something like that.
Yeah, they had the orchestra wrapped around the director, and the choir basically is straight behind that in the loft. So it all worked out really well. But it's to spend an evening and having all that talent around and playing some really really nicely arranged and beautiful music. It was, yeah, I mean, it's helps you take your mind off politics for a while, Dale.
Well, and that's good. That's a good thing, isn't it? That
Yep,
is a
yep.
good thing. We need that. We need to do that from
Need
time.
more of it. Exactly.
All right. Well, Ken, let me just mention one of Ken's responsibilities, other than, of course, helping with everything else going on here tonight. But Ken will be monitoring the comments and questions sections. So if you are viewing our broadcast tonight and want to make a comment or ask a question, please enter that in the chat section, and Ken will pick up on it and will give us a high sign that we got a question or a comment that we want to address. So Ken will be monitoring those. Ken, if my count is correct, now last Monday we did another best of. We did a couple best ofs over the holidays. So that brings us to this is number 180, if my count is right.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
You've been along for on the ride for about 48 of these broadcasts. So the numbers keep going up, don't they? They keep going
Yes,
up.
they do. Yes, they do. Yeah, yeah. You talk about wild parties. It's been a wild ride. You know, what are you gonna do?
I know, and it's going to be another wild one this year. I can
I can feel it in my bones, Dale. I can feel it in my
you
bones.
can feel it too. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just make a few announcements here, folks. If you're not part of the Convention of States family here in Indiana, the first step to take is to go to our national website, conventionofstates.com. Provide the information needed and sign up and become a supporter of Convention of States. That's the very first step, very first critical step that we want you to take. Might also mention that, of course, this broadcast that we're doing right now, we do this every Monday evening at 7:00. Then every fourth Monday of the month, we devote the broadcast to a different format, and we do it in a roundtable format. So the executive group here in Indiana then forms a panel, and we discuss a particular topic of interest, hopefully to our viewers. And that is coming up January 23rd. Is our next roundtable. We haven't got a topic yet, have we, Ken? We got to get busy and come up with a topic.
We may have one after tonight, Dale. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, yes, we might. I mean, there's nothing to talk about. There's just nothing going on anywhere, is there?
No.
I'm a little yes. No, there's a lot to talk about. It becomes a matter of which thing are we going to talk about of the many that are possibilities that are out there. So, but coming up January 23rd will be a roundtable, same time, same place, just a different format. So please keep us in mind for that. Now, also want to mention that in the latter part of 2022, Ken and I implemented a couple new podcasts. And what we do on these podcasts is we do two of them. One of them, I just mentioned to you about the roundtable broadcast that we do on the fourth Monday of every month. Well, we take the audio portion of that roundtable broadcast and we offer that up as a podcast. So if you missed viewing the roundtable, of course, it's the recording of the video would be available if you wanted to view it. But if you didn't have time or wanted to just listen to what we talked about, that will be available as a podcast. And you can find that on Spotify.com. Now, we've also implemented what we call COS Indiana Live Voices. And this is where we interview. We spend about an hour interviewing a particular dynamic volunteer that we have here in Indiana. We have some good ones, don't we, Ken?
Excellent. Yes.
Yep.
Excellent people.
And we've I think we've done 4 of them so far. We've got the 5th one lined up and ready to go. We'll be interviewing him hopefully sometime this week. But that's called COS Indiana Live Voices. And again, these are both podcasts. So for those of you that enjoy listening to podcasts, do you do podcasts very much, Ken? Do you engage in listening?
I have a few on my list that I'm not as regular listener as I should be, but when I find myself in the car or someplace where it's a little easier to spend some time doing that, I pop in. I listen to a podcast. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I very sporadic on my part, but
well, they've been around a long time, and I know I think the interest in podcasts has peaked again for some reason. I don't exactly know why, but they've been around a long time and seem to have disappeared a little bit. But I think they've come back. Everybody seems to have to to want to have a podcast nowadays. So
it seems like there are a lot of them out there. And we've got, as a matter of fact, we've had some COS volunteers that do podcasts. We've had them on as guests, and if there are others out there, I would like to find them and bring them on and as a guest, because I think that's a good thing. Now, I'm saying you can find all these podcasts on Spotify.com. Now you're saying that they're actually available on some other platforms too.
Spotify, Google Podcasts, you can find it there, and of course Anchor if you happen to have an Anchor FM app. But Google Podcast, I know it's certainly at this point they're showing up, and I think with a little bit more playtime, they may eventually start showing up in places like Apple and but it just takes a little more time for them to be recognized and filtered in.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Well, let's tell everybody what our broadcast is about this evening. We started 2022 off with a theme of what activism can I take in Convention of States, thinking that theme would last maybe a month or so. Well, it lasted all year, and I think we're going to continue it right into 2023, as a matter of fact, because everything we do in Convention of States is about activism. So, some of us express our activism in leadership roles, while others express their activism in some other type of role. And we have a number of different roles or a number of different activities that one can express that activism in. So anyway, we're going to continue with this theme. What activism can I take in Convention of States? Now, we have with us tonight as our guest one of our regular activists. I call her our super volunteer. Debbie Stewart's coming on tonight. Debbie, we're going to have, when we get her on here, we're going to ask her how long she's been doing this with us. I think it's a couple of years, quite honestly.
You're giving her a chance to look that up now, but
she'll have to research that very quickly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Debbie has. I'm going to talk a bit more about her. Well, I'll talk about it right now a little bit. Debbie has always been her main topics. Her main topic started out in constitutional literacy, and we did a number of interviews with her on the Michael Ferris Constitutional Literacy Program. Then she started bringing in some civics lessons, and these are things that she teaches as a teacher, and now she's kind of gone extreme on us, and she's I can see her laughing in the lobby.
She's going to be throwing donuts at you next, Dale.
She but we've asked Debbie to, of course, continue with us, but we want her to focus on self-governance. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that just before we bring her on here. But we want her to focus on self-governance. And I'll very shortly, I'll get into why that's important to us here in Convention of States. Okay. So Debbie Stewart's going to be our guest this evening. We got a contributor segment from our friend Marengo Mike tonight, and he's going to be talking about our favorite acronym, Get Off the Couch, GOTC. It's actually, is it GOTC? It's something else, isn't it, Ken?
Well, we figured at this point he may be adding a new one. I think it was GOFBC.
Is that
it? We'll let Marengo describe that. I think maybe I hope I got it right. Maybe not, but right. Yeah. And since I kind of know a little bit about what Marengo is going to be talking about, I do have a little something that I can add at the end of that from I think we talked about this earlier from an article I pulled up, which I find very interesting and goes right along with I think Marengo's topic tonight. So.
Oh, okay.
You might have to add a little bit of that at the end of his segment because he didn't have time to get it in.
He didn't. I see. Okay. All right. Okay. And then we're going to get into Raise Your Voice, and you want to explain that a little bit?
Sure. I want to get people who have their cameras, smartphones, and their laptops, whatever you're on, have a chance to get a hold of this code so that they can be prepared when we have our little Raise Your Voice segment tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up right now for you so you can actually get your smartphone out and snap a shot of that so that you're ready to go on Slido.com. And if you're on a laptop or a desktop, you can use Slido.com. And when you get there, they'll ask you if you have a code to get into, and it's number 1467690, and that'll get you right into the presentation tonight of our Slido presentation. But that's the code. So if you got your smartphone, go ahead and snap that, and it'll also be ready. Well, there's now Debbie saying she's ready. Woohoo! Debbie's ready to go. So that's the code. It'll be there a little later.
She did that. She put that in there.
Debbie put that in there. Yeah, she's ready to go. She's throwing some curveballs at us now, Dale.
She is. Yes. All right. Thanks. All right. Well, listen. Again, let's get into getting ready to bring Debbie on here real quick. Once again, we're talking about Convention of States and activism, and I want to mention something to everyone. I'm going to take a minute to talk about this, and that's the concept of self-governance. Two things that I want to stress to everyone. There is I think an impression out there that Convention of States is all about holding a Convention of States. That's actually kind of logical, isn't it? Based on the name of our organization being Convention of States. Well, that is something obviously that we want to do. That is a goal that we want to accomplish. And we have 19 states that have signed on to make that happen. We need to get to 34. Indiana is one of the 19 states that has signed on, passed the resolution to call for a Convention of States. But what we are really about is self-governance. And I want to make that clear to everyone. See, calling a convention of states is an act of self-governance. It's a very, very powerful act of self-governance, never been done before. And that's calling a convention of states for the purpose of proposing amendments to our Constitution. So that is an act of self-governance. So convention of states is really about self-governance. And what I want to do is I want to share with everyone, and I think we'll do this from time to time and keep reminding people of this. But let me bring up, this is the Convention of States national vision. I call it the vision statement. Some people call it the national mission statement, or I've also heard it termed as an aspirational goal for Convention of States. I kind of like that, as a matter of fact, aspirational goal. This is something that we will forever strive to accomplish, and that's to build a strong, engaged army of self-governing activists. See, that's the ultimate. That's the ultimate. It's not having holding a convention of states. It's building this strong, engaged army of self-governing activists. Now, here in Indiana, we have adopted our own mission statement, in which, if we accomplish our mission statement in Indiana, that brings us closer to realizing the aspirational goal for Convention of States. So here in Indiana, our mission is to restore self-governance by recruiting, training, and deploying citizen activists to engage in all levels of government. So I just want to make that clear to everyone that that's what we are about in Convention of States. And folks, if you're watching tonight and you're not part of our Convention of States family, just imagine you becoming a part of a movement dedicated to self-governance and dedicated to taking power back, and this is involvement at all levels, any and all levels of government, your local city, community, neighborhood, whatever it is. It's kind of like a Marengo Mike talks about getting off the couch and getting involved. So
that's a good point. It's a good point, Dale. And I think what self-governance is too is it's a foundational block to the constitutional republic that we have. I mean, I think it's a major difference in a constitutional republic and what some of these fluky politicians call a democracy.
Yep. Yes. Yes.
So it's important to realize that self-governance is at the root of a constitutional republic, which has given us these freedoms all these years. So,
well, I just wanted to take a moment to clarify that, and so I think we will do this from time to time. Repetition is always the best for remembering something. So we'll do this again to remind everyone. Okay, Ken. Well, we've set ourselves up here. It's time to bring Debbie on. She's gonna. I think she's probably gonna get us in trouble here, but we'll do it anyway. So let's bring her on, Ken. Hello, Debbie.
Hi, Dale. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Debbie.
You didn't hear us talking about you in any way, did you?
Oh, no, not at all.
No, I didn't think.
Not at all.
Well, Debbie, thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you for being with us again here for 2023. So, Debbie, what do you want to talk about tonight?
Well, I did want to talk about the World Health Organization because we're talking about self-governance, and by the way, when you were talking about Article 5 and Convention of States, if you think about it, the convention is just a means to an end, which is self-governance. It's not the end. the end of the convention isn't the end in itself. It comes right out of Article 5, call a convention of states. It was given to us as another method of amending our Constitution, especially when we have a Congress that isn't going to amend something that's going to affect them that they don't want. And so that's the way that the people can still do what they want without having to go through the federal Congress like that, right?
Right.
And so to me, the convention is just a means to an end so that we then get the Constitution amended. But what I was going to say about self-governance is the opposite of self-governance is having all this federal or global oversight, and they are then running our domestic policies here in our country. And our Constitution was designed so that we can develop what our domestic policies are. The exception to that is Article 6, the Supremacy Clause, where it says that if we sign a treaty, that treaty will then supersede our Constitution. And so this whole thing around the World Health Organization is, I'm going to introduce you what the WHO is, what's their goal, kind of a little bit about them, but then we're going to talk about the global pandemic treaty they are drawing up as we speak now, so that they can then control all of our health decisions. And when I say control, I mean they want to control everything. And then if it becomes a treaty and we become a signatory, then the CDC and all of us will have to bow to whatever they're saying.
Yeah, we're talking. You're talking global control here. We're not talking federal control. We're talking global control here, aren't you?
Absolutely. And this is 194 member countries, called member states that are in the World Health Organization. And the World Health Organization is an agency of the United Nations. It was created in 1948 to kind of help coordinate any kind of public health issues and to make them better. And I think it might have started out with a decent goal. A little bit about it. It's headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, by the way, which is right next door to Davos, Switzerland, where the Agenda 2030 is going on. So it's interesting. These two huge organizations that want to control what we do are both in Switzerland. And it consists of about 7,000 members. So there's 7,000 employees at the World Health Organization. It is headed up by a director general. His name is Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. I'm not sure of the exact pronunciation. He's from Africa. He's the director general. This treaty they're drawing up would basically give him a dictatorship over our health decisions. There are also 6 regional directors too, and those they just split the world up into 6 regions, and then one person heads up each of those 6 regions.
So
okay?
just take the globe and cut it up into 6 pieces, huh?
That's what they do. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So they have 150 country offices, throughout the world, and then 6 regional offices, 194 member state, which is just about every country in the world. We're up to like 194 and 195 plus a few territories. So let's just say 99% of all the countries and territories are in there. And in order to become a member of the World Health Organization, they have to go ahead and ratify the World Health Organization Constitution. So they also have their constitution. So that's kind of a little bit of background. Very interesting. In July of 2020, President Trump, at the time when he was president, withdrew us from the World Health Organization because he said his main reason at the time was that the way they were handling the pandemic was way off. So he pulled us out of there, but you have to give them 12 months ahead of time. So he put in the notice July of 2020, so we could pull out in July of 2021. But what happened was Joe Biden became president in January of 2021. The first day in office, he said, no, we're back in. So we never really got a chance to be formally out of the World Health Organization because of that 12 months notice you have to give. So it started out with maybe a good goal in 1948, but now it's becoming a foundation for a one world government under the premise of coordinating and ensuring global biosecurity. We want to make sure their main goal, they're saying their main objective is in their constitution, is the attainment by all people of the highest level of health. So everybody gets the highest level of health, but their main goal is equity and to meet the needs of women, children, the poor, and the disadvantaged. Okay, so equity is the main thing here, where everybody needs to be at the same level. And they are in lockstep with the Agenda 2030 17 sustainable goals. And they feel as though every one of those goals is a health issue, because it's about climate change and health now. So they think they should be involved and in lockstep with everything the Agenda 2030 is doing. So they're basically holding hands at this, for all of it. And we talked about in the last two shows, right? Agenda 2030.
Right, right.
Their goal is to be the authority on all the world's health. That's what they want to, from here on out, be. So that's a little bit about the World Health Organization. And they also have something called the World Health Assembly, which is that's the decision-making body of the World Health Organization. Also, 194 member states are involved. I think it's one from each of those member states. And every May they have an annual conference. All right, so that's any questions on like what the World Health Organization is doing? And
do you know, is there are there dues or some financial commitment to this organization by each country?
Yeah, that's a great question. I am not sure. I think that you are encouraged to give to that.
I would imagine I would think we're probably the largest contributor, however that's determined.
We typically are with most things. Yeah, I do know, like, for example, Bill Gates is one of their highest contributors also. We'll talk about that in a little bit here with some of the pieces and parts to this. But I don't know for sure about that, Dale, if there's you have to pay a certain amount or you're kind of expected to give and donate. And
yeah.
Kind of like United Nations too. I'm not exactly sure if you're just kind of pressured to give, whether it's voluntary or not. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the main thing that's going on with the World Health Organization right now is a global pandemic treaty. Now, it's not really called a treaty right now. They're calling it an instrument because they don't know what they're going to call it yet. They've talked about an accord, a global pandemic accord, a treaty, an instrument. They're still keeping that open. They met December 5th, 6th, and 7th, just last month, and they kind of started drawing up what it might look like. It was the Intergovernmental Negotiating Body. And I apologize for looking at my notes, but there's so many acronyms and names and stuff in here. And they're all floating in my head, so I want to get them right. The Bureau of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Body, they kind of have been working on this. And what they did is they put together a process for this pandemic treaty. And then I think when they meet in end of February of this year, so next month, they're going to begin to put more details into this. And the goal is probably by mid-2024, it's ready to go. It's ready to be signed, by countries and things like that. And they're calling it the conceptual zero draft because they kind of started from zero to draw this thing up. So it kind of has some bold provisions in it. They're going to talk about equity, technology transfer, waivers, and other contentious language in the draft. It begins with a preamble and a vision, which includes like an introduction, definitions, and then what kind of relationships they have with other international agreements and instruments. So they're all kind of tied together. It's very interesting. There's such a coordinated effort. Everywhere I'm doing my research, they're all tied in together. Even to like the London School of Economics is involved. It's amazing how many organizations and groups are involved in this. They really thought this out ahead of time. I think they've been working on it for 15, 20, 30 years, moving towards this direction.
Yeah.
So then it lays out objectives, principles, and the scope of the treaty. And just a little bit about, there's a set of 18 principles in the draft, and some include things like equity, transparency, accountability, inclusiveness. Like equity, there was a whole chapter that was included with that. Gender equality, diversity, universal health, something they call One Health, which is very interesting now. Instead of, like, when we think about healthcare, we think about human health, right?
Right.
All the people in there. Well, what they're doing now is they're taking the humans and they're putting them into a bucket with wild animals, the ecosystem, the water system, the insects, and all the different groups of things. And they're saying they're calling it One Health, so that now when there's a health emergency, it can be anything. Because health is all inclusive now of everything on the earth.
Holy smokes.
So it's just crazy. And they've obviously put a lot of thought into that, but they're demanding One Health in their amendments, and I'll talk about those amendments in a minute. They're not really defining, they're leaving it really vague so they can have it say whatever they want it to say and include anything they want it to include.
Debbie, you're gonna give us a link or a way to access this type of thing for people to read about it, right?
Absolutely. And it's right on the World Health Organization. There's lots of stuff out there. As far as the treaty goes, I know that it's available. I would think they have what they have so far out there, or at least some of the amendments that they talk about.
Okay.
So in addition to this, the goals of the World Health Organization, going back to the WHO, is they've been meeting to plot censorship of misinformation. So they're already planning, how are we going to get rid of any misinformation out there about either us or the treat or anything else they don't want to be there. And hey, we realize they can be really good at this based on what's happened in our country with Twitter and Facebook and things like that.
Right.
We know it's been weaponized. The second thing is they've also been meeting to discuss increased surveillance powers. So part of the amendments that they're writing up for themselves is to say, hey, we get more power and we get more global governance. So they're basically writing up their ticket to run the world. So yeah. Okay. So now there's even a word that they coined that's called infodemic. So infodemic is there's an epidemic of information that's not correct out there. So that's a new word that I saw out there.
What's the word again? Infodemic?
Infodemic. It's coined by the World Health Organization. They're going to have infodemic managers that manage the information.
So not only are they changing definitions of existing words, they're now making up new ones.
Right. And an example of the changing of the definitions is in May of 2005. Let me make sure I get this. There were two meetings. There's something called the International Health Regulations, all right? The IHR. And the IHR, what they did is they brought in something called the PHEIC, which is the Public Health Emergency of International Concern. So that allows them to declare a public health emergency. And when they do, they can then weaponize and or operationalize anything they want on the earth, because this is a public health emergency of international concern. One of the things they did is they met and they made some more new amendments to this whole thing. And then the second thing is they appointed Margaret Chen was their leader. So for example, in April of 2009, they had the word pandemic, and the pandemic had a definition, and it was like enormous death and illness. It was very well defined. I mean, for people dying all over the place. But a month later in May, they changed it to mild or severe in death or illness, and it can change over time. So they're making these terms much vaguer and much more where they can step in whenever they need to, because, hey, the definition is different now. And so that gives us the authority then to come in and call something a public health emergency of international concern, not just in their own country or somebody's country. So they also took those IHR amendments and they removed the sentence, the respect or dignity of human rights and fundamental freedoms, and they took that all out of the whole thing. So that respect and dignity for our human rights, our civil rights, and they replaced it with equity, inclusion, and coherence. That's a huge move to take that out of their amendments. So now any kind of illness could be almost considered a pandemic. And so they can operationalize all the control they have. They can stockpile pharmaceuticals. It allows them to do a lot of things that they can tell all the countries of the world to do.
Wow. Wow.
So now here's an example of what happened. So we heard about monkeypox earlier this year. So this governing body got together and they said, well, do we declare this a PHEIC, or a public health emergency of international concern? And they voted 9-6 not to do it. But the director general, he stepped in and he broke the tie and he said yes. Now, I don't know about you, but most ties are 6-6 or 9-9. But this was a 9-6. And he stepped in and said, well, I'm breaking the tie. And yes, we are declaring it a national health emergency.
Oh, you're just too picky. You're just too picky.
Right. So this is just some of the things that are going on, but it really is a control issue. And they have something. So here's another thing that's happening. It's called the CEPI. It stands for Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, founded by none other than Bill Gates. Has to do with vaccines. And basically their goal is, they are saying they can make pandemic vaccines in 100 days. And so the three main things, okay, and you know what? This was launched in Davos, Switzerland, with Klaus Schwab at the head of it. Isn't that amazing?
Wow, what a coincidence, huh?
I know. In 2017, so that's 6 years ago. That basically they're saying, we want to strengthen our global health security by advancing vaccines against known threats with safety and testing and stockpiling before the epidemics even begin. How do you do that, right? They want to fund new and innovative platform technology to accelerate the development and manufacture of vaccines against previously unknown pathogens, 100 days. Now, we know a safe and effective vaccine takes about 10 years. And most medical professionals that know anything about this can tell you that. They're saying they're going to do it in 100 days. So then the last part is they're going to support and coordinate activities to improve our collective response to epidemics, strengthen capacity in countries at risk, and advance the regulatory science that goes into product development. It's also interesting that, Anthony Fauci is stepping down, right? So somebody needs to take this position. There's a man named Peter Hotez, and he's kind of vying for that position. And he says, no, we don't use nutrition. We don't use whole food. He believes in medical tyranny. And he calls vaccine safety people anti-science aggressors. On a Twitter post, he wrote, anti-vaccine activism is a major killing force. So you know where we're going. I think he's going to be worse than Fauci. I don't know.
Wow.
So, all this stuff is kind of coming together to operationalize and weaponize the whole health emergencies of international concern. This man, Tedros Adhanom, the one that's from Africa, he's the director general. He sat under a Marxism ideology. He has close ties to the Clinton Foundation and Bill Gates. Surprise.
Yeah.
He's right now chair of the Global Fund, which I'm pretty sure there's been a lot of fraud and corruption and scandals going on there. He's not even a physician, and he's the head of the World Health Organization. And he is also involved with the Clinton HIV/AIDS organization. And by the way, the largest donor to the World Health Organization is the Gates Foundation.
Is that right? Yeah.
So,
When did Bill Gates get his PhD in medicine? That's what I want to know.
That's what everybody's asking. How does a guy who starts a computer company now running the world and telling you what vaccines you should and shouldn't take?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting.
So anyway, so this whole intergovernmental governing body is the goal. Vaccinating 70% of the population of all the countries. And they're working on the instrument right now to make it legally binding. And so remember, again, if it is a treaty and we become a signatory, it most likely will trump our Constitution as far as our health freedoms go. So that's the question mark I have. Exactly what does that look like?
Yeah.
That's what they're after. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay.
It's become clear that there is a large pool of Constitution haters, and they're finding a way to try and squash it for sure. Yeah.
Yes, because those are the people who want control. You can't have control in a country that believes in freedom,
Right.
and has a constitution to back that up, right? So let's talk about next steps. So Dale, why don't you go ahead and let's put the World Health Organization website up there, who.int. Do you have that?
Yep.
Yeah. So I would say the first thing to do is go do some research and find out what's going on. A lot of this is a fast moving train. I don't know how much of it we're going to stop or slow down, but it's good to know what's coming. And so self-governance means so much more now. And it's so much important that everybody's involved in this, because we don't want to wake up one day and go, what just happened?
Debbie, we know our governor attended the Agenda 2030 conference. That's probably not the right term for it, but
no, that's right. In Davos, Switzerland.
In Davos, Switzerland.
Yep.
Would he have attended anything with the World Health Organization?
Yeah, he could have. I don't know, but a lot of these people that are in leadership positions can be pulled into some of this stuff and into some of these meetings and conferences and things like that. Now, if they go to it, that doesn't necessarily mean they buy into it, but if they're exposed to a 3-day ideology where they're promised things for doing it, then when they come back, there's a good chance they're going to try to implement some of those.
You got to wonder what interest do they have in even going to it?
Right.
I would think Debbie hit it on the head. It's what they get for going. It's for what they can finagle for, to get for their attendance at this point.
Maybe so. Okay.
So that's who.int. Go do the research right on the World Health Organization. You could spend a whole day on that thing. It's loaded with people and teams and.
It sounds like you could spend weeks on this if you are really a research bug. Wow.
So do your own research. Also, I would talk to your elected representatives, your senators, your House of Representative people, your governor, some of the other people that work in government, to say, hey, where do you stand on this? Where's this going? Are you involved in this? What have you heard? Things like that. And then I would get involved with organizations like Convention of States and other organizations for self-governance. Don't leave your freedoms in the hands of the world governance, because if you're a believer in the Bible, which I am, we're going towards a one world government. So it's kind of like, how can we push back against that? Yeah. How can we do something here and now, right here in Indiana, that would make a difference in that? But you don't want to leave your health decisions in their hands.
Debbie, you'd given me this one too. Is this how is this related?
Yeah, so this is a man that he does something called the Corbett Report, and he has a lot of other things that are going on in the world on his website too. But if you go to corbettreport.com and you go to videos, and then you go down like 5 or 6 down, and the video is called Weaponization of the World Health Organization.
Oh, okay.
He's being interviewed by somebody else. But he does a good job of summing up. He has the document that he's showing you as he's going along shows you actual quotes and things from the document. So I think that that's a good place to go. Now, I haven't searched everything on there, so I don't want to endorse that as a large thing. But I did also watch his video in addition to doing other research on this global pandemic treaty.
Okay. All right. Okay, Debbie. Well, you've stirred the pot up again. Very interesting, though. Ken, any comments or questions for us this evening?
No, like I said, I think we've got plenty more topics out of this one, and we could probably find a couple round tables out of it. But
yeah. I think we maybe found a topic for a round table, haven't we? Yeah.
It's it boggles the mind that so much of this is going on, and nobody. I mean, it's just amazing how many people have never heard of it. So, Debbie, we do appreciate all your research on it, and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, this
speechless.
thing is so big. It has so many tentacles. But one thing I would say is I've noticed that in our news here in this country, nobody's talking about this. And it's almost as if they're saying, oh, watch this and look at this war in Ukraine and all these things. While behind our back, all this other stuff is happening. And a lot of people don't even know, because regardless of what we do here in our nation, as far as the things, our elections and stuff like that, if the governing world board comes and tells us what to do, that kind of erases some of the work that we've done here. So I think it is good to know what's happening and see how we can slow and or stop or push back.
Yeah.
Distractions. Yeah. Distractions.
Yep.
All right, Debbie.
I have one quick question. We have one quick question that popped up.
Okay.
I'll get this on now while Debbie's still here. Our friend George is on tonight, and he wants to know, how is a treaty made effective?
Yeah, so the treaty is, my understanding of a treaty is it's made effective when people sign on to it. They're called signatories. And then that treaty, then once you become a signatory, then you are underneath that treaty. That is my understanding.
And I think, isn't it our Senate? Our Senate has to approve a treaty.
I believe it is the Senate. Yeah, I think it's 2/3 of the Senate maybe has to do that.
I mean, just the president signing on it doesn't make it a treaty. It's got to be the Senate, I think, has to approve this.
I think you're right, Dale.
Or any treaty for it to be a binding treaty. So,
yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Anything else?
Okay. Yeah, I think we did have one other question. I think we might have hit it there. What about the Senate? So, yeah, I think we just talked about the Senate, but it wouldn't surprise me that Biden wouldn't try and sign it before anyway. I mean, he might as well just try it.
Well, and that's the other thing we talked about the last two sessions with Agenda 2030 is Biden is lock and step with everything that's going on from the world governing bodies. So we're not going to get any pushback. As a matter of fact, we're going to look over here so you don't know what's going on in the world. So
right.
Yep. All right. Debbie, thank you very much.
You bet.
We'll be bringing Debbie back. We're going to try and bring her on at least once a month, and so look forward to the next time. Thank you, Debbie.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, Ken, we went way over time on.
Interesting topic, and of course, it's like a runaway train at this point. It's just hard to stop it.
You wanna jump right on into Raise Your Voice, and
I can do that. We can jump right into that and go from there.
Let's get that and get that done. That's important.
Raise Your Voice, a segment that features you. Scan the code and join the fun. It's your turn to be heard.
Okay, well, let's jump right into it because we have to make do with time tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up, and we'll get right into it tonight. So tonight's Slido is up. So if you've got your smartphone, grab that code, and we're going to jump right into it tonight because we are running short on time. So first question is going to go on up, and that is, what is your main source of information about current events? We're kind of trying to get a feel for where people are getting their information about current events and see which, if any, seem to be the more popular go-tos. So if you can think about where you're getting most of your current event information, that might be helpful to us as we look forward. And Fox News has jumped out to an early lead, but I'm sure there's a few of these others that will pick up. Oh, I like that. Matter of fact, I've got a little something from the Epic Times tonight. I'm not sure we'll have time to get to it now, but got radio, 25% right now. Not seeing any of the other major social media, which is
interesting.
Kind of interesting, kind of a surprise. Some of these newer entities that have come along outside of Fox News and radio, of course, but of course, there's still a lot of good radio type stuff out there on Sirius XM and other places like that where you can get good news. But I'm nothing on Twitter, nothing on YouTube, and nothing on Instagram or Facebook. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Must be something to do with our viewership there, I think.
You think it might be, huh?
I don't think we have any people that are heavy on the Twitter. So
Right.
we'll leave that one at that. Looks like the Epic Times really bolted ahead there,
Pretty
80%
strong.
towards the end. So
Pretty
the local
strong.
newspaper picking up some, but
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, number 2 tonight. Which one of these legislative agenda priorities McCarthy signed off on do you think has the least chance of getting voted through? Now, there was, I think, 9 or 10 of them that they presented in order to get him to get the votes to become speaker. So I pulled out 3. I thought that we're looking for the least. And right away, that's the one I was figuring would probably jump right off the bat is term limits. But
yeah, that's kind of where I would.
leaning towards that.
They're not going to do that. They're not going to.
As good as it is, they got to sign off on it. It's still got to get passed. So that's the one I think I was thinking of. So it seems like we were pretty much in agreement there, and other people were looking at weaponization of the federal government. So
yeah,
interesting. Okay.
Very good.
Go on to the last one. Appreciate everybody jumping in on that. And with a new strain of COVID coming out of China, how confident are you regarding the rejection of the same procedures should our government look to impose them on Americans once again? So I think a lot of us feel that the government is going to try and repeat an already failed, a failed process of dealing with pandemics. But I'm kind of curious, how people, if people think that the American people are going to fall for this again, or whether we're really just going to, stand up and push back on this. I don't know. It's
so you're asking, how confident are you that we would reject the previous procedures? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. How confident are you regarding the rejection of the same procedures? In other words, do you feel confident that the American people see through all this and say, hey, the science of the mask and lockdowns, how do you feel on that? Do you feel that the most Americans have seen this at this point, or are we going to be back into the same situation with lockdowns and what have you? Should another wave of this pandemic hit to the point that we're being dictated again and mandated again?
Okay.
So it looks like 50%, about half, which I think probably fits in pretty well, Dale, with half the country.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that we just, I don't know. We have to get back to, again, what is science and really have that discussion, which we haven't done very well on discussions. So that's it.
All right. Good deal. Well, Ken, we you want to hold your comments that you were going to make?
Yeah, you want to go ahead and get a Marengo in, and I mean, it seems to me at this point, if especially with the polling there, I find it interesting that where people are getting their current events. But I will save it for another time. The article that I'm talking about, I'll be able to put together a little better presentation. I just read about it tonight, so I thought it was interesting.
Okay, well, you want to do Marengo real quick?
Let's do Marengo, yeah.
Okay, go ahead and do Marengo, and then we'll wrap it up here.
Welcome to another Marengo Mike's Corner. So, as we begin a new year, let's take a look at federal overreach. It's one of the 3 areas Convention of States seeks to address at the meeting of states. What you're seeing every day on your television is a result of government's overreach in controlling the states and its people. Censorship, lockdowns, and the likes are threatening life as we know it. We can no longer sit on or hide behind the couch if we are to return our government to its intended purpose and vision of our forefathers. Let's use 2023 as the year of activism and take the steps necessary to truly make this a Happy New Year. That's it for now. Bye-bye and Happy New Year.
All right. All right. Very good. Very good. Well, let's wrap things up then here, Ken. Just want to mention to everyone, if you have any questions or thoughts after our broadcast tonight, feel free to send us an email to raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. It's raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. And Ken and I look at those emails every day. So feel free to shoot us an email. So just also want to mention one more time our podcasts that are now available on Spotify.com, the Roundtable, as well as COS Indiana Live Voices. So, Ken, I think that's a wrap for tonight. Now, Maringo was talking about this. Get off the couch. It's time. It's all about self-governance, and folks, I'll tell you, it's time to get off the couch and get involved. And we need your involvement in Convention of States. We need people. We need people to help us out here. So, please go to that national website if you have any interest in. And become a supporter and get involved with us. Anything else, Ken? You got anything on your mind?
Not just a supporter, Dale, but we need some leaders. We need leaders.
We need leaders too. That's for sure.
Need leaders in this country. Yep.
All right, Ken. Have a good evening, and everyone. Good night. We'll see you. Let me mention. We'll be back again next Monday evening, the 16th. And our guest that evening is going to be one of our newer district captains, Gary Spielman. Actually, Gary's been a district captain for a little while now, but he's still considered a new district captain. So he lives actually pretty close to me, where I'm located here in Fort Wayne. But so Gary will be our guest next Monday evening, and we'll introduce you to him. So you get to know him and where he's located and what he has planned for his district. So that's it. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night, Dale.
See you, Ken.
Good night.